regardless of the politics of it, I think it would be really great if it passes, but it'll be interesting to see if it has an effect on politics.
Well, if you're looking at the justice system in terms of rehabilitation and not just punishment, then having a second chance to take part in your democracy and voting would be part of something that you earn back and be rehabilitated too. So, in that sense, it's something that should have been on the ballot, and we'll see how people go from there.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to make sure that our listeners know about Florida in general or Florida politics?
The one thing is right now there is a lot of energy and a lot of work being done, canvassing, postcard writing, calling, getting out the vote, and also through the indivisible groups, just the whole notion of taking part, having a greater part in your democracy by holding your Congress people accountable, by making those phone calls when they do a vote that you don't like, or by calling them and suggesting the bills that they should vote for. And that is even trickling down into state legislature, which is a little bit more challenging to track, but it is being tracked, and people are getting even more energetic and about following that because they realize how much of what impacts us really isn't necessarily federal, but is state driven. When you start seeing that, you start thinking, oh, I need to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Florida has been such a seesaw in politics,
Mm-hmm.
and it always seems, looking at Florida, that it could be a blue state moving forward. And I think, blue or red, just seeing more people involved in the political process everywhere
Mm-hmm.
is really exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you. Seeing more people involved in the political process can only serve our democracy, can only make things better. The more people that vote and take part and hold their representatives and Congress people accountable, the better we are off because that's the only way this democracy works.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much for joining us
Yeah, thank you.
and for telling us more about Florida.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Kelly, and in this segment, I am here with Pam Keith, who is running for Congress from the Florida 18th District. Hello, Pam.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for coming on. Maybe you could start by telling us just a little bit about who you are and why you're running for Congress.
Absolutely. Again, my name is Pam. I'm running for Florida's 18th Congressional District. It's one of our most interesting, diverse, some would say personality disorder districts because it's so different from the north to the south of the district. But it is a coastal district, and it's just a really beautiful, beautiful part of the state. To tell a little bit about me, I'm a daughter of a U.S. diplomat. So I grew up living in foreign countries, learning different languages and cultures. I went to high school and college in California. From there, I went to law school at Boston College in Massachusetts. And then I went into the Navy, which was sort of an unusual career decision. I became a Navy judge advocate. And what prompted me to go into the Navy was that my father was a naval officer before he was a Foreign Service officer. And I grew up with great stories about the Navy and a deep commitment to my country, a deep sense of wanting to give back. So that was why I joined the Navy. I served as a criminal defense counsel for the majority of that time and also a legal assistance officer. So I gave advice to sailors and Marines on the basic personal things that they had to deal with, evictions or filing their taxes or things that didn't rise to the criminal level but were, administrative problems, being overweight or something like that, those kinds of things. I was always representing sailors and Marines, and it was such an honor to do that. It was a great way to develop my advocacy skills. From there, I went to private practice, went to several large law firms, was recruited to be senior labor counsel for a large energy company here in South Florida. And in my professional career, as a negotiator, as a labor relations attorney, I learned how to resolve disputes without burning bridges, how to be creative and to find win-win solutions, which I think is really, really an important skill set. And of course, learning the law, and especially the law as it applies to working Americans. So that's something that I brought to the table. And then a passion for service and a passion for people that I brought into running for office. So that's where I am now, running for public office.
All right, that's great. And that's a really interesting career path. One of the things you mentioned was trying to sort of find creative solutions and middle ground, and that seems like something that's not being done a whole lot in Congress right now. But that's certainly interesting, and I think that would be a really useful skill to bring to Congress right now.
The reason that we are having such difficulty finding middle ground is because Congress reflects the people who send them there. I mean, unfortunately, it does. A lot of the reason for the polarity politically is because people want very different trajectory for our country. I don't think it's being a good negotiator is getting the outcome that your client wants you to get, and finding win-win solutions works a lot when you're working from a space of goodwill where you want to reach agreement. But where you get an environment where people aren't arguing in good faith anymore because they don't want solutions, they want, victories, then it becomes tougher. And I just think that's something worth noting.
On your website, you talk about living in Lexington, Kentucky, and learning about discrimination, being the only African American family in your neighborhood. It's still the case that African Americans, especially African American women, are underrepresented in Congress. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that plays into your candidacy?
It's incredibly important that we have voices from all kinds of backgrounds to represent us. We value diversity, not because it checks a box, but because people who come from different life experiences add different perspectives to problem solving and are able to advocate based on a personal connection or a personal experience with a challenge that we're facing or an idea that is being contemplated. That's not to say that someone could, if I'm not LGBT, that I can't speak for LGBT Americans. I absolutely can. I can advocate for them. It doesn't mean that a man can advocate for a woman or a black person can advocate for a white person. They absolutely can. But how they do it and how effective they are and what solutions they come up with, the kind of creativity and detail and nuance they bring to the table is very much driven by how much personal experience and knowledge they have of those struggles. Some ideas which may seem great in one context, if you were the person that was affected by those choices in a different circumstance, would think it was a terrible idea. And that's why diversity of thought and experience is so important. We have seen that when we have more women in leadership and in Congress, better outcomes that are more family focused, outcomes that are more win-win oriented. We've seen those things. We break loggerheads when the women get together and figure it out. So we know we need more women. And we also know that women of color make up a huge percentage of the Democratic caucus of the Democratic Party, and their voices need to be heard as much as their votes account for the successes electorally. And that is the challenge. As a black woman, I can tell you, never have I been told that my voice, my experience, my background, my style, my swagger is exactly right. In my entire existence, I've never been told it's exactly right. Instead, every step of my life, I have been told it's too much, or it's too loud, or it's too strong, or it's too confident, or it's too this, or not enough of that, or people will be offended, or people won't be offended. You can't sound like this, and you can't be like that. And it isn't until we get women in positions of power and women of color in position of power that the next generation will see that, their way is okay. It's perfectly fine. That their voice is an important voice to add to the chorus. That they are fabulous the way they are, with whatever nuance and style that they have. And so that's part of the calculation too.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned a little bit about the district. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your district in Florida looks like, what communities are represented there?
Absolutely. The district is a true mix of people in the southern part of the district is actually the northern part of Palm Beach County. And Palm Beach County, this part of it is a little bit more affluent of center. I mean, there are obviously parts that are extremely affluent. There are parts that are upper middle class, and then there are parts that are very much working class. This part, it was gerrymandered, so they've kind of cut out some of the parts that have people that are in other low income brackets, but this has a lot of gated communities, has a lot of senior communities, a lot of retirees, and of course, people who choose Palm Beach County choose it because of its natural beauty. It's a great lifestyle. There's a lot of golf and a lot of tennis, and the beaches. It's just a beautiful part of the state. The central part of the district is even more focused on people who want a slower lifestyle. Martin County has decided that it wants to be less about development. It's taken a slow approach to development. It too has beautiful beaches. People come because they want to not have the frenetic pace, and so it's a little bit sleepier. But again, lots of retirees and lots of seniors and lots of people who are small business owners just trying to make a go of it. The northern part of the district is also different. It's St. Lucie County is a little bit it's more diverse ethnically. It has a strong Haitian population, Caribbean population, a lot of working class people, families, and also still a lot of retirees and people who've settled to finish their, to live out their golden years. But all parts of the district are very concerned about environmental issues, especially because of the St. Lucie River, the effects of sea level rise on our beaches and so on. And everybody here is concerned about health care, be they young, old, in the middle, many people that are retirees that are relying on Medicare, others that are relying on Medicaid, or are preparing to go on to Medicare and are now on private insurance plans of various and sundry sorts. Everybody is worried about that, and not just that, but the cost of health care. Not just the insurance side, but the medical cost. Cost containment is something that people are very, very concerned with.
Are there any other issues that are really pressing in your district right now? You mentioned climate change and healthcare. Is there anything else that's really of concern to people right now?
Palm Beach County, and certainly our part of the state, is very close to Parkland, Florida, where we had this tragedy that recently occurred. And people here are looking for real solutions, real ideas for gun control. I think everybody is realizing that the logic behind, just arming more and more people is nonsense, that isn't going to make us safer, that isn't going to make our schools safer. So they're looking for people that have the courage to stand up to the NRA, are clear on what it is that they're trying to get done, and are not going to be apologetic and holding people accountable for doing the bidding of the NRA. That's what they're looking for. I've been talking about real solutions in terms of gun policy that has the balance of the respect of the Second Amendment and also the needs of people to be safe and to reduce gun deaths. That's what people are looking for.
Great. And is there anything else that you would like people to know about you or about your district?
My district is full of very independent thinking people. Whether they're left, right, or center, they like to think for themselves. They don't like to be dictated to. They feel like they understand their needs better than anybody else. So they want to have a full panel of choices in their elections and in their choice for representatives. They will cross party lines. They will. A lot of people. Our district has virtually a third of it is non-party affiliated, which means that these are people that are going to be impressed with candidates that speak to the issues in a way that they feel is intelligent and credible. So you can't just be only interested in speaking to people who are of your own party persuasion, but you can't be all things to all people either, because then you come off as feckless, as having no true center. People are becoming jaded and cynical about the person who will just say whatever needs to be said in the moment. So having a true north, even if it's a progressive worldview, having a true, consistent, progressive worldview is, I think, very, very viable in this district. And I'm excited to be that progressive voice.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for running. I'm really excited about your candidacy.
Thank you so much for having me. Your listeners can find out more about me at electpamkeith.com. That's my website. And also follow me in my active social media feeds, Pam Keith for Florida, at Pam Keith FL on Twitter and Instagram. And just look forward to continuing this conversation because this is such an exciting election and such a great opportunity to put really smart progressive women in Congress.
Terrific. Thanks. And we'll put those links up in our show notes as well.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful opportunity.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.